The horse stance is an old traditional martial arts exercise to develop willpower, leg strength, and hip mobility. You can find this stance in almost every style and culture. In northern Chinese martial arts, it's called mabu, while in the southern parts, the stance goes by the name seipingma. In Japanese, it's called kibadaichi, and in Korean, jujum sogi. There's nothing flashy about this exercise, and despite its unimpressive look, it's still among the best exercises to increase your leg strength and hip mobility and develop your tenacity and willpower. Maybe this stance stood the test of time because you can practice it almost anywhere. It doesn't take a lot of skill and time to be effective. You can combine it with many other upper body and mindfulness exercises, and the benefits from practicing this stance will increase your strength, mobility, and mental resilience. To go into a horse stance, you start with your feet together and measure the distance 4.5 steps apart. From here, you lower yourself into a horse stance while keeping an erect posture. Make sure your spine remains neutral, so neither lean forward or have a hunched over posture backwards. So your hip is the secret here. So let's go over some important points. First, try to press your knees out so that they ideally are straight above your toes. If you can, lower yourself to a height where your upper thighs are parallel to the floor. You can place a stick on your thighs to ensure maintaining the correct height. I keep my arms shoulder high in front of me to have a counterweight to maintain a neutral back. But you can engage your arms and upper body in various ways depending on the goal of the exercise. For example, in martial arts, an often practiced form combines the horse stance with punching exercises. From a practical perspective, it makes no sense to train your punches in this open and rigid position. But by combining the mental pressure this stance imposes on you, it's a great way to practice the form of a punch while needing to maintain a strong will to stand in the horse stance. One of the main obstacles people encounter when doing the horse stance is limited mobility to go into a deep horse stance and knee pain when doing so. One main difference to the Western equivalent of this exercise, the wall squat, is that the horse stance requires more hip mobility and engages the abductors and adductors by standing wider than a normal squat, making this stance more complex because of its non-linear nature from placing the feet about 2 shoulder widths apart. This wide stance is both a blessing and a curse because depending on where you start from, it can strengthen the muscles around your knees or it can put too much strain on them. So coming from Hungar Kung Fu, a traditional martial arts style, there are other equally important stances that all strengthen the muscle and connective tissues. Depending on what other exercises you do in your life or how active you are or have been, you also need to include different exercises to not fall into this trap of creating imbalance or straining yourself by overuse. As this here is kind of an ultimate guide to the horse stance, I also need to give these additional exercises as well. And I want to give you 3 additional exercises to increase your mobility and fix your knees if you have difficulties in this area. The first exercise is the resting squat, which sometimes also goes by the name of the Asian squat. If you have ever been to Far Eastern countries such as China or Japan, you may have noticed that they squat when resting and talking to each other, and they squat when going to the toilet sometimes. Movement expert Ido Portal talks a lot about the importance of squatting and once gave this excellent 30 by 30 challenge. The challenge is very simple but not that easy. Accumulate 30 minutes of daily squat time for 30 days straight. Whenever you squat, start the timer on your phone. Pause the timer when you're done for a set of squatting. Restart the timer when you go back into a squat. If you want a great additional routine while squatting, I can highly recommend the Ido Portal squat routine, link in the description. In total, try to accumulate 30 minutes of squatting time per day. The next complementary exercises is a stance I know as Ichi Kinyoma. In Hong Kong, this stance is often done together with a Qigong exercise. This stance is also widely known as the Wing Chun stance. To go into this stance, place your feet 3 side steps apart, then point them inwards. and let yourself fall until the structure of the body holds you up while relaxing the legs. A very simple way this stance can be used is to perform 5 to 10 squats in this position to strengthen the inner side of the leg muscles around the knees. It's also a very good warm-up exercise before you use your legs. You can also do Ichi Kimyoima, similar to the horse stance, and hold this position for 5 to 20 minutes while practicing a Qigong or breathing exercise. The last complementary exercise I want to give you is to stand up from a cross-legged sitting position without the help of your arms. This is a great way to strengthen the muscles around the lateral side of the knees. If you have trouble doing this exercise, you can start from an elevated position like a chair or a cushion or a mat. From cross-legged position, lean a little bit forward and press into the lateral border of your feet to stand up. At the top, turn around yourself so that the other leg is in front that was behind before, and slowly descend again in a controlled way to a count of 3 or 4. Repeat this 7 to 10 times for 3 sets. So how long should I stand in the horse stance? And is it okay to stand higher than having the upper sides parallel to the floor? If you are a beginner, I recommend starting with 30 to 60 second bouts of a deep horse stance, or as deep as you can maintain a good form. Have a 90-second rest and then go for another set. Do 5 sets in total per session. Do this session 2 to 3 times per week. Over the course of 6 weeks, gradually increase the time to 90 and maybe 120 seconds per set. After 6 weeks, you will have a solid foundation, I promise you that. If you can't keep your upper thighs parallel to the floor when you start, I'm pretty sure you're able to do so at the end of the 6 weeks, especially if you include the 3 complementary exercises I gave you before. Maybe it's a bit of a romantic belief of myself to value simple exercises from traditional martial arts to the degree I do here. But to me, there's something special to the kind of exercises where you have a still body and an active mind. And there are 2 components to that. One is maintaining the horse stance, where I need to fight my inner dialogue to remain standing. The other component of the mind is to resist the compulsive impulse to do all sorts of things with my arms and hands, to distract myself from the pain in my legs. This could be really subtle, like wiping off the sweat with my forearm, or scratching an itch that I have. So one thing of the mind is about maintaining and the other is about resisting. Both components have different voices in how they tempt my willpower to give in. And for both of them, I need my willpower. By exploring my physical and mental limits and overcoming them second by second, I draw a lot of confidence for other areas of my life when I encounter challenges that feel similar to my mind. I recently learned that there is a brain structure called anterior midcingulate cortex where willpower and tenacity reside. Research has shown that it is activated when we face this friction, when we don't want to do something and do it anyway, or resist doing something tempting. And this brain region is among the most plastic brain regions we have, meaning we can change it through practice. So when we do things we don't like, the anterior midcingulate cortex grows in size. Engaging in practices where we encounter this friction of internal dialogue and overcoming it stimulates growth. It is also speculated that this region holds not only willpower itself, but the will to live. To me, this is a perfect explanation of why traditional martial arts integrate an exercise like the horse stance as a fundamental part of their practice. As the art of self-defense encapsulates the protection of one's life, it is only logical to train a part of our mind that holds willpower and potentially the will to live. But in order to have the effect of growing our willpower, we need to be careful not to fall into a rigid structure of a habit where we don't feel the mental friction anymore. That is so important. So there are a couple of ways that can be used as an antidote. If you have a coach or are part of a martial arts school, you have an element of surprise there. Often you don't know when and for how long you need to stand this exercise or the horse stance. A way to simulate this scenario is to have a pre-made plan where you want to practice the horse stance. It sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. Always include multiple sets to increase the friction of having to do it again and again in a single session. This way you don't have a choice and need to do it even though you don't like to do it or have a bad day. Another great way is to include long holds where you hold the stance for 30 to 60 minutes on a slightly higher level. More on that later. Another way to spice this up is to do the horse stance with a random timer. This is a timer that you can find as a free app or as a web application. The great thing about this is that you can set a minimum and a maximum time, and the alarm will randomly go off somewhere between the minimum and the maximum time. Especially if you set the maximum time out of your current baseline capacity, this element of surprise is an additional mental challenge and an antidote to a rigid and mundane practice. One of my favorite challenges is to integrate long horse stance holds from time to time. Much like practicing long runs when running, you do hold a horse stance for much longer than usual, but at a slightly higher stand. Start by holding a horse stance for 30 minutes without moving anything except changing the height so that you can hold it to the end. This means you can't scratch an itch, wipe your sweat off, or shake your arms out. Complete physical stillness. If you can do 30-minute holds, you can try for 1-hour holds. It is said that back in the days before the Shaolin Temple, the original one, were burned down, one acceptance test was to hold the horse stance for 1 hour. Up until recently, I still knew a traditional Sifu who wouldn't accept any student who couldn't hold the horse stance for 30 minutes at least. So let me know in the comments how your horse stance practice goes and how long you can hold. And don't forget to subscribe if you like the vibe of my videos here. Thank you for watching. Bye.